everyone, well welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be making some dairy-free, nut-free maple butter tart squares. Now this is a great recipe if you're a fan of butter tarts but don't want to make pastry. We're going to use a shortbread base instead, and it's so easy to make and tastes amazing. This actually should come with a warning because these squares are so addictive you're probably going to finish the whole batch in one go. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is preheat our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and now we're going to prepare the baking pan. So I'm going to be using an 8-inch square baking pan today. We're going to go ahead and grease it and then line it with parchment paper. Now this will be an easy way to release the bars from the pan once they're actually baked and cooled down as well. Make sure you get all into the corners of the pan. Do the sides and the base too. That's perfect. Then I'm going to add a strip of parchment, which is too long, and you'll see why in a second. So make sure that's in place. Got my 2 little side strips as well. Perfect. And then with these overhanging bits, what I'm going to do is actually tuck them over and then use these handy little clips to hold it in place. Now this is to make sure that this doesn't actually blow over onto the squares when it's baking. So again, I'm just folding it over and clipping it into place. Perfect, that's our pan prepared. So now we can go on to making the shortbread. And for this, I'm using the classic 1-2-3 ratio for shortbread. So we're starting off with 50 grams of brown sugar. You could use white sugar if you prefer. Then I have 100 grams of cold butter, which we'll be adding to it. This is plant-based butter because it's dairy-free. And then 150 grams of all-purpose flour. I'm going to give these just a little bit of a mix first to combine. Just want to make sure if you are using brown sugar that all the lumps are broken down. Perfect, and then we go ahead and we add our butter to it. And this butter, as I said, is cold. It's come straight from the fridge, and that's because shortbread actually bakes a lot better when you use cold butter. So now you can either smush it together with your hands, or I'm actually going to use my hand mixer for this. We're going to go until it forms a crumbly consistency, and then we can pop it in our baking pan. So you can see it's almost there. There's still some larger bits in it. Give it another few seconds. And that's perfect. So very crumbly, almost sand-like consistency with just a few bigger chunks of the butter in it, which is actually really nice for shortbread. Then it's as simple as taking the baking pan and dumping the mixture into it. And then we're just going to use our wooden spoon and flatten everything, level it off as well. Once it's leveled, I'm actually going to start pushing down with the spoon. You can see here that it's actually just pushing everything together as well. So like I said, this is going to be the base for our butter tarts. Normally you would use pastry, but this is a really, really nice technique. So much easier to make as well than having to make pastry. So just keep flattening and leveling, pushing it into the corners as well. Now, normally if you make shortbread, you might poke holes in the bottom of it here. We actually don't want to do that because once this is baked, we're going to be adding our filling on top, and we don't want that to go through the shortbread base. I think that's perfect. So there we have our shortbread base. That's now going to go in my preheated oven for 20 to 25 minutes until it's slightly golden. So while the shortbread base is finishing baking, we're just going to quickly make up the filling for the butter tart squares. Now in a jug here I have 160 grams of brown sugar. To that I'm adding 60 ml of maple syrup. We have 2 tablespoons of melted butter. One teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, which I personally believe makes a huge difference to butter tarts. And then we also have a teaspoon of vanilla. You could use vanilla bean paste or vanilla extract. Let's just add the rest of the maple syrup there. Now, of course, if you don't like maple syrup, you could leave that part of this recipe out completely. Butter tarts don't always have maple in them, but I really like the extra maple flavour that it gives. Give this a stir together. So what we're doing here is just making sure that everything is combined and the sugar starts to dissolve as well. So it's going to make sure it doesn't give us a grainy finish to the filling. And then finally we're going to add 2 eggs. Now I took those out of the fridge right at the start of the recipe so that they are at room temperature by now. And then 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Now if you're wondering why I'm adding flour, it's purely to help with the stability of the filling. So I want my filling to be fairly jiggly, but not running out when we cut the squares later. So the flour just helps to firm everything out, but a little bit without making it too firm. Give that a thorough stir together as well. So you can see it makes a really nice golden, gloopy sort of consistency, which is perfect for the butter tarts. And I'm going to pop this to one side and then bring our shortbread base out of the oven. Okay, so this has gone nice and golden. Let's just pop it down there so you can see. Smells lovely as well. So that took about 25 minutes in my toaster oven, which if you have a toaster oven, you don't want to turn your big oven on. This recipe is perfect for that because it is a fairly small baking pan. So then you just want to go ahead straight away and pour that filling over the top. Just make sure we get those last bits. Perfect. And then carefully we're going to pop it back in the oven for around 20 to 25 minutes. Now the time it's in the oven is going to depend on how firm you want your filling. I recommend checking it at about the 22-minute mark. You're going to look to see how jiggly it is in the middle. Bring it out while there's still a little bit of jiggle in there because it will firm up slightly as it cools as well. So let's get this baking. So our butter tart square has finished baking. You can see how it's gone all nice and caramelized on top, smells great as well. We're going to leave it cool in the pan for about 30 minutes so everything can firm up, and then we're going to take it out of the pan. So the pan is nice and cool now, still a little bit of heat in it, but definitely enough to take it out. So you saw I just took the clips off. I'm going to go around with a spatula and just loosen off the edges. Okay, and then I'm just prising it up a little bit. It does always stick a tiny bit in the corners. There, we loosened it off there, you could see that. Okay. So the moment of truth, we're just going to take it out and pop this aside. Now I can peel this back. So it's still a little bit sticky in the middle, which is what we wanted. And there's the side of it. So I'm going to leave it cool for another few minutes and then we'll cut it up. So we're going to go ahead and cut a little bit now. We'll just cut this row here. Now obviously the number of slices that you get from this is going to depend on how big of a slice you want. Let's have a look. There you go, you can see the layer of the shortbread and the nice soft filling as well. Still a little bit warm, but let's pick it up so you can see a close-up. Beautiful. So for storage with this, if you don't eat it all in one go, which I think you probably will, you would want to just pop this back in an airtight container and then keep it in the fridge. Usually it's good for about a week or so, but as I say, I don't think it'll actually last that long. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever tried butter tart squares before. This is definitely a great way to save having to make pastry, but if you do like original butter tarts, make sure you check out my recipe, which is linked in the bottom for that as well. You can also find the recipe for this on my website at bakeangel.com, and I look forward to seeing you on my next video. Happy baking!